Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben. This is my fourth episode of this series. I hope you're enjoying the episodes so far. If you've subscribed and you've found it again, thank you for coming back and listening to the fourth episode. If you're new to this podcast, feel free to subscribe and check out all my other episodes which are currently on here and find out a bit about me as well. Gardening with Ben. So today's episode is actually going to be continuing from yesterday's, as I had planned on talking about what my successes have been on the allotment this year, but I didn't manage to fit it in. So today's episode is going to be what success have I had from my allotment in 2020. So like I said, today's episode is going to be continuing from the last episode on what success I have had in 2020 on the allotment. Now, obviously 2020 has been one hell of a year for the bad reasons, but in a sense of gardening on the allotment, I've probably had one of the best years that I've ever had down on the plot, as obviously with the restrictions and the lockdowns, the allotment site said that we were still allowed to go to the plots and enjoy our exercise in the garden, which meant I could go down there every day and enjoy being outside. And this year, probably in March, April time, we had a fantastic heat wave. It was glorious weather, so I spent absolutely loads of time down there planting lots of seeds this year. The first year I have grown flowers from seed, and they were a fantastic success. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see the pictures of all the flowers which I've grown this year. The flowers that I grew, which did fantastic from seed, were the calendula, scabia, geraniums, which I was pleasantly surprised at. Geraniums are expensive to buy as plants, and I just planted the seeds from March time, and I had about 12 plants that came through, the seeds that germinated, and they were fantastic. They've done so well that I've dug them all up and put them in pots and put them in my polytunnel to hopefully save till next year, and fingers crossed they will grow back. And I'm not up on growing flowers, that's not my forte, so I've been asking my followers about taking cuttings for geraniums, and they've told me how to do it. So I might take some cuttings from the geraniums and have even more geranium plants next year. If not, I'll grow some more from seed and start them off as well, and fingers crossed they'll all grow as well. The other flowers that I grew were sweet peas. Now, you can plant sweet peas in October, November, or I planted mine in March, and they still did fantastic growing them in March after the cold season. Obviously, if you're growing them now, you've got to keep them alive through winter in the polytunnel or the greenhouse and make sure they don't die. So I started mine off in March, April time, and the flowers that I had off them and the fragrance that they added to my plot were unbelievable. I'll probably be growing even more of them next year because they've done so well. Now, some people have trouble growing sweet peas, but I had great success. Now, you can start sweet peas off by putting the seeds on a damp piece of kitchen towel, and once they start germinating, then you can put them into the pots and plant them that way, or you can put them into the pot straight away and start them off. I personally started them off on a piece of kitchen towel, and all the ones that germinated, then I planted them. The ones that didn't germinate, I didn't bother with. So you're not wasting your time planting them in pots and them not germinating. So that's a little tip there for you. The other flowers that did well are calendula. They did brilliant. Now, I shared a few pictures of them on my plot, and quite a few people said be careful with them, as they send out loads of seeds and you'll never get rid of them. but they added so much colour to my plot, I don't care if they take over the plot, and I'll just keep digging them up when I need to if they grow in the wrong place. But they added so much colour to my plot, they were fantastic. So if you're wanting to grow flowers from seeds, go for calendula. The other ones that I grew were scabia. They did brilliant as well, so I'll be trying them next year. All these were just normal packets from the supermarket, and I couldn't believe how well they did. I didn't buy any plants, I just grew them all from seed. And obviously sunflowers. I grew sunflowers from seed as well, and I got about 6 or 7 sunflower plants, and I had one giant head on one of them. It was fantastic. I saved the head from it for the seeds next year, but I put it in my shed, and it looks like the rat found it, or the mouse, and ate all the seeds. So someone's been happy from all them seeds. So getting on to my fruit and vegetables that did well this year, I have on my plot a number of fruit trees. I've got a plum tree, a cooking apple tree, an eating apple tree, and a pear tree. And my plum tree and my cooking apple tree have been in my plot ever since I've had the plot, so about 15, 16 years. And the amount of plums that I had this year were fantastic. It's a Victoria plum tree. It seems to fruit for 2 years and then has a year off. So I don't know if that's anything to do with the type, but I'm not happy I'm happy as long as I get a good supply 1 year. So they did fantastic. They were weighing the branches down so heavy that some of them even snapped. The cooking apple tree, wow, I had so many. I gave it a massive prune the other year, and I was surprised that I was going to get any. To be honest, I weren't expecting any, and I had absolutely tons. I was giving them away for crumbles and everything. So my cooking apples did really well, but my eating apples, they didn't do so well this year, which I don't know why. I'd not pruned it as it was still a young plant, but last year I had loads on it, but this year for some reason I didn't. So fingers crossed I get some cooking apples next year. And my pear tree is new as well. I only had a couple last year, but I had about 7 or 8 this year, so every year I still keep getting a few more. So fingers crossed I have even more next year. Also on the plot I've got summer raspberries and autumn raspberries. The summer raspberries I weren't as impressed with. They didn't seem to do as well, but the autumn raspberries, they did fantastic. The fruit on them are much bigger than the summer raspberries and a lot more tastier. So if you're choosing a raspberry, I'd go for autumn raspberries if you're growing raspberries on your plot. Vegetable wise, every year I make sure that I plant sweet corn. Sweet corn is one of the best vegetables that you can grow on your plot. And the reason for being is that it loses its taste after 10 minutes of picking. It starts to deteriorate, so you need to pick it and then cook it straight away, and wow, you'll never taste anything so good as homegrown sweet corn.
If you haven't heard already, the place where I'm recording these podcasts is an app called Anchor, and it's totally free. They also put your podcasts on multiple platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. Straight away, you can also schedule the time that you want it to go on, which is fantastic. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer, so you can record your podcast literally anywhere you want. You can also make money from your podcasts as well, with no minimum listenership whatsoever. So the more times it gets played, the more times you can earn money from it. And there's everything you need to make your podcast all in one place. So if you download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, you can get started with your free podcasts.
The other things that did brilliant on my plot were potatoes. They are delicious to grow. If you've not grown potatoes before, do try them. They'll melt in your mouth and they'll just crumble when you're cooking them. They're so tasty and the skins just peel straight off them. So try growing potatoes. I also did well with my runner beans, my beetroot. Now beetroot, I love it pickled, but also I love it freshly cooked and eaten from being warm. That is so tasty and moreish. If you've never tried cooked beetroot, taste it. Wow. Don't just go straight for pickling it, try it cooked and see what it tastes like. It's a game changer, trust me. The other things that did well was kale. I had purple kale. Now that was fantastic. Now cauliflower, I grow a purple variety of cauliflower, and what should be white is purple. You'll probably think, purple cauliflower, I've never seen that in a shop. But no, this is something that really grows well. I've tried white cauliflower before and I've always struggled with it. So I've tried purple the last 2 years and I've had great success with that. So try growing purple cauliflower and trust me, you will have some great success with that one. The other stuff that I did well with are my tomatoes. I always grow tomatoes. Cucumber. I grow the Market More variety of cucumber, not the Telegraph version. I seem to do better with the Market More variety, as that doesn't need much attention compared to the Telegraph, as Telegraph cucumber needs to pollinate with the male and the female flower, whereas the Market More one will just pollinate the flowers and you will have great success with them. So if you're looking at cucumbers, try Market More variety. Now, I had some failures. Obviously, everybody has failures on their allotment. And carrots, I've always struggled to grow carrots. I've never had great success with them. I'm going to try growing them in pop bottles next year. I've seen quite a few videos of people growing them in pop bottles in compost. So I'm going to try that and I'll share with you how I get on with that. The other failures, my courgettes, they did rubbish this year, absolute rubbish. There were quite a bit of controversy over courgettes as there was a bad batch of seeds going out. So people were getting poisoned. So a lot of people didn't grow courgettes this year. The other failures I had was pumpkins. I grew some pumpkins and they were only tiny, diddy little things. But I've been reading up quite a bit on pumpkins. So fingers crossed, I'm going to try them next year and get them even bigger. I would love to see how big I can actually grow a pumpkin. Just put all my effort into growing a pumpkin and seeing how big they get. Let me know on my social media if you've grown pumpkins before and how big you managed to grow yours. So yeah, that is my success and failures of 2020. So having an allotment, obviously you do get your success and failures on the plot. The thing about having an allotment is you're learning all the time. Sometimes you'll do right well with your crops one year and the next year you couldn't do the same again and they can turn out rubbish and you just don't know what you've done wrong or right with them. It's just sometimes the seasons or where you've planted them or how you've planted them or when you've planted them. And not always you can explain why something's failed, but it's part of the fun of it. Just getting down to the allotment and enjoying being in the fresh air and enjoying planting them and seeing what success you do have. Some years you can get absolute bumper crops depending on the weather. It can be boiling hot and obviously you'll have to keep it watered more and look after them more, or sometimes you can have lots of wet weather, whereas then you'll have to keep weeding because the weeds will keep growing back all the time, and keeping on top of the weeds is a hard job. Allotments aren't straightforward when you're growing vegetables and fruit. You have to put in the time and effort. You can't just think, oh, I'll just plant my plants and that's it. You have to put in the time and effort and look after them and nurture the plants so that you do get some fantastic produce back off your plot. So I admit that this year has probably been one of the best years I've had on the plot, probably because of the time that I've had to put into the plot and the great weather that we had at the beginning of the year to help things germinate, that did help as well. So 2020 for gardening for me has been a fantastic year. I hope you've all had successes and on your plot and not too many failures. Let me know as well how you got on. And remember to click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my new episodes and my podcasts, what come up on here. So once again, thank you for listening to my podcast for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to click that subscribe button and feel free to share it as well to your friends who are enjoying gardening, and if they're looking for podcasts to listen to, it's always good to see new people following and enjoying it. You can also follow me on my social media sites, which are Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, all Gardening with Ben, whereas on Facebook I'll do live videos and share tips regular on what I'm doing on the plot, as well as plenty of photos as well for you to see how I'm actually getting on. So thanks for listening everybody, and remember, keep gardening.